All right, everyone. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jason Levine, and today we are here for part two of video editing and specifically music video editing with Ernie Gilbert. And if you joined us yesterday on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, you know that Ernie was showing some really awesome, giving you like a lot of the basics and a lot of the fundamental techniques that he employs when starting the process for cutting music videos together. Talked a lot about really just the process and the thinking behind a lot of the decisions that he makes, and that, you know, to inspire you to use similar kind of techniques. Today, it's really going to be about cutting and showing kind of this real-time process of going through all of the stacks of selects and everything that you saw him do yesterday. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover. And we are here to take your questions as well. So I want to remind everyone, of course, we've got live chats going on the Adobe Video, Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter Periscope. So feed me your questions. I'll feed them to Ernie as they come in, or I'll be answering them myself. I am Adobe Video, so when you see a response from me, that's me, and just my own name on the other channels as well. So let's just get right into it. So without further ado, again, you saw him yesterday. He's an amazing human, super nice guy, amazingly technical, full of tons of knowledge. He will definitely inspire you, my friend and yours, Ernie Gilbert. What's up, dude? How are you doing today?
Hey, man, thanks for that kind introduction. You're gonna make me blush.
The pleasure is mine. So I know today we're going to be cutting, but I know you mentioned we might want to do just like a brief recap of yesterday and kind of get people kind of re-inspired as to what we're going to be showing and talking about today.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's the previously on, like in
Yes.
your previously on your favorite TV show. What we kind of breezed through yesterday, and this is available on the archive, but is just kind of how I got into music video editing, kind of how to navigate your labels and your directors and keeping people happy, and kind of those big picture, big ideas about editing. And then we started working on a video for a pal of mine, a guy who goes by the name Young Student Loans, which is like the best artist name ever. And he actually, it's really funny. He has to be careful about where he posts the name of like his name, because he'll get automatically flagged on stuff because all the algorithms thinks that he's advertising student loan help.
Like spam loan help. Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah, so he has to be very careful. We actually ran into that when we were prepping kind of the trailer for this video when we dropped it on Instagram. It was just like, how do we type this? And, what does that look like? Right. But yeah, so we started kind of digging into what it looks like to get that raw footage. How do we get a pipeline and a workflow set up so that we're kind of honoring the DP and the director's vision from set? How are we looking at, kind of the treatment and the story and the narrative? And then how are we digging into those like technical things with the syncing and the organization, and kind of prepping a project so that throughout the entire process, you're able to just really focus on that creativity and not get stuck in that world of like, well, where's that clip? Or
right. Where's that scene? Where's the chorus stuff that we shot? Yeah, exactly.
Just having it all at your fingertips so that you're going. I mean, I'm constant, like anytime anybody talks about old school editing, on a moviola with film, I'm just flabbergasted that we were able to even do that at some point. Like when I think about editing and music video editing and where we've moved with social media and just the pace of everything is just so much faster. It's
right.
There's a music video film festival here in Los Angeles that went on for several years. And I remember going to that and watching music videos in a theater projected on the big screen.
Oh, wow.
And the edits are so fast. It's like jarring and kind of, for me, nausea inducing, just because it's so big, but so much of, I don't have my phone in front of me, but so much is like on the little screen. You kind of do need that more, more cuts, more impact, more energy.
Right. So
yeah,
which is also a sign of kind of current stylistic trends too. I imagine, you could even go back 5 years prior to that, and it was a little bit different. Even though the access was not quite the same, but right. I mean, these things kind of evolve and change too as access becomes greater and just more present everywhere for everyone. Right.
Totally. I mean, it's total sidebar. I think the average song length has gone down because so much music is based on your stream. and you
Right.
get more streams if it's a 2-minute song versus a 4-minute song.
Right. Yep.
But
And you don't make those royalties on Spotify if they don't play through a certain percentage of the track, which is also really interesting. So it makes sense to keep it short and tight and concise because no 17-minute Inagata Davida drum solos in the middle of things anymore. It's just not going to happen in the pop world. Yeah. All right. So yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, so just a couple of quick shout outs to everyone, to Ash, to Rick, to Desiree, to Cal, to FM, to we've got Richard and Daniel and Sina. So hello and thank you for joining. And again, please ask your questions. Let us know where you're coming from. I see we've got Rick from Scotland here and Cal from Toronto. So yeah, Ernie, whenever you're ready. Ola, Tay, and F. Smitic from San Antonio, Texas. How's it going?
Yeah, let's I guess let's throw on my screen here and
all right,
pick up where we left off yesterday.
Whoops, not me. There we go.
Make my face.
Let's do it.
That'll be perfect. All right. So kind of where we left off yesterday is we had gone through, we had organized all our footage, we had sunk it all up, and we're kind of in this world now of this video has portions that are synced to the music, and it has portions that are not synced to the music. And so what I wanted to do first was to just kind of go through and show how I am thinking about my selects process. Okay. So the best way to do that to start, I believe, is going to be to look at some of the footage that is intentionally not meant to sync with anything. The idea here is that this footage, these little bits, a lot of times with music videos, it's little vignettes, it's little moments that allow you to kind of tell your story and kind of weave together what this narrative is, but they're not necessarily, it's not choreographed, so there's not like a dance move that has to hit on a certain beat. Somebody's not singing with their, so the lips, the drums or guitar, this is just stuff that can kind of go anywhere, and different directors work different ways. I've worked with directors who shoot everything overcranked at 60 frames a second,
right?
Which is an interesting approach, because what that lets you do then is, at any moment, you can go into slow motion, and so those directors really like the flexibility in the edit to kind of stretch stuff out and speed stuff up. Other directors are very kind of more narrative oriented, where they're doing takes and there's a slate and everything kind of has a slot already pre-planned. Kind of some of my favorite stories are some directors I've worked with that have intentionally chosen not to shoot something. That is, they will purposefully not film the singer singing a verse or a chorus because that they don't want that option to exist. And that's a pretty that's a power move, as I like to say.
Because then they're relying entirely on all of the story of the B-roll that you're shooting. I mean, they're just trying to create something outside of the
They're relying on the B-roll or the narrative. They're also saying hey, I want to kind of lock us into some choices because I have a vision. The director has a goal, and sometimes, because the labels are businesses and they're trying to, look after different interests, sometimes the labels are a little adverse to something so specific. They want to kind of have those backup options. It definitely goes both ways. As an editor, it's your job to kind of navigate that and to try to kind of protect your director, but then you also want to, the client is the client. You want to kind of please those people, make sure that they are happy with what they're getting. That's really half the challenge, is just navigating all the different perspectives, but still coming to a place where you have something that's awesome and you're proud of it.
Right. Right.
So this video, this string out that I've titled No Sync is made up of several different moments. I have the benefit, because this is a video I directed, I can kind of tell you our thought process and all of this stuff.
Right.
This video, this stuff right here, we actually had our gimbal kind of went out of control on us. And so this is just all kind of garbage. So what I like to do in that situation is I will just disable that footage. I'll label it red. I'd leave it there because you never like, you know, maybe I don't need to use, actually, how's it? I didn't fix my resolution. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was going to say, you seem to be in higher res today, but it still looks great. It's still coming through nicely.
Let me just tweak this really quick and we'll get,
okay.
So everybody can see a little bit better. I'm just used to, higher resolution. All right. So, you know, every now and then, like, there's a world where I don't think I would use this. You know, maybe you could, like, you know, this is Premiere's effects are kind of, they just make sense for my brain. You know, you click on a clip, you get all these effects. You know, we could scale this up really quick. We could throw it like this so you don't see that light. Like maybe there is a world where we want kind of an out of focus driving through a neighborhood. I don't know, but
right as now, you often do.
right now we're doing what I like to call the you know, the director's cut. Right, we're working off of that treatment, that initial plan, and that initial plan didn't really call for out of focus neighborhood shots. So you're gonna throw that away. Like I was saying yesterday, if you're on the stream. In an older video from Young Student Loans, he kind of introduced this character of the milkman. And so he has this hat, custom hat that says milkman on it. And
oh, nice.
we thought it would be funny and kind of self-referential for him to bring that back into this video. And so in this scene, we shot it from a couple different angles. We shot kind of this high angle, looking down on him, looking at these things. We shot this low angle, looking up at him. Our great director of photography, Eric Bader, had all these fun lights just kind of streaming. And so what I would do if I was gonna make you guys watch the 8-hour version of this, is I would go through these clips, and in every instance of a, you know, the action here is he walks up to the table, he looks at the bottles of milk, he puts on his hat. I would go through each and every single one of these. I would razor blade. I would move up to video track 2. And the reason for that is I want to do my due diligence. As an editor, you know, part of your job is watching all the footage, is knowing where everything is having that kind of memory of, you know, an editor. They talk about how an editor's memory is so important because we become kind of a library. You know, the director and the producers, they remember what they got on set, but they're also remembering how hot it was or how much time it took to get a shot or how the background extra kept messing it up. As an editor, you're just responding to these things in your office, hopefully in a comfortable chair. And you're just coming at it from a totally objective place. And so for me, it's pulling these selects and then having access to them later. So like, here's a fun, here, I'll make this bigger. He looks at it. He has a moment of thought. He puts the hat on. Good to go. So I'm just we'll call that our select for this video. I like to then disable the non-select so that I can just kind of scrub through this stuff really quickly and just see those things, those pieces that I really reacted to the most. This is the reverse of that, you know, so kind of dolly in with him, look, puts the hat on. So I'm gonna grab that one real quick. You'll notice here, this has a little yellow FX notification on it. And just what that means is we shot this, actually, I was just looking at it because I couldn't remember. That designation lets me know that there's some sort of effect happening here. This clip here with the gray doesn't have that. This shot was actually just shot upside down. Sometimes when the camera's rigged a certain way, it has to be upside down. So I'm able to just apply that. That just kind of lives with this clip now. This data, this 180-degree rotation when we go to online this footage, when we go back to reconnect it to the C200 4K Canon RAW Lite that we shot this on, that data stays with this clip. And so even though we'll be working then in a 4K timeline to prep for our vendors, our color, if we have VFX, that data still lives there. We'll know what that needs to be. It'll make our online process nice and smooth. So those are those two shots. What else? I'm reminding myself. So this was a take we did. There's me and our crew. And this was all shot last October, November. So pre-COVID, when we could all be on set together.
Right.
I think it was my last set I was on. So this was just kind of like some, we're flying by, headlights in the haze. So again, I'm in a traditional edit, I'm going to be watching all of this stuff down, in real time to try to, find those magic moments. I think part of it too is at this point in an edit, I will have listened to the song several times. Right. So I already kind of know what the beat of the song is, what the vibe of the song is. And you start to pick up on like, that's probably like, this song's kind of slow. That moment, that's probably not going to work. So I'm not going to pull that.
Right. Right. And that's actually a great point, because a lot of times in the case of stuff like this, where it's not synced, it is just kind of B-roll that you could leverage. If you've got a lot of really fast, like that was a beautiful, some kind of, I don't know if that's crane dolly shot. I don't even know how you did that, but like beautiful movement, beautiful motion on that. But right, if it's like a super slow tempo track, I don't know how that really works, right?
And so it's thinking about that. I mean, I might still pull that just to have it, maybe we want to play with it, but it is thinking about the timing of stuff. One of my biggest pet peeves as an editor is when I get a shot for a music video for a 3-minute song and I get a 30-second dolly shot. I can never use that unless the plan is for us to sit on one shot for a fifth of whatever percentage of your video.
Of the video, like This Is America, right? I know you talked about that a little yesterday. Like that's such an uncommon occurrence, right? Where you have that, where it's like kind of that one shot for a very long period of time.
That video was them going through. I mean, they did a rehearsal day. They choreographed that for several days. I mean, like that was them going in and saying, this 30 seconds has to be it, because
we got to nail it.
There's not another option.
Right. There's no cutting. Right.
Although there is a stitch in that video where we combined two edits or two takes because Donald liked his performance in the first half of one take and the second half of another.
Oh, nice.
So there's an invisible stitch in there that I think I've said where it is, but if you find it.
Okay. Oh, now I'm gonna have to go back and watch it too. Like see if I can see where it is.
This I'm just going to keep plowing through this real quick, just so we have some options for our palette. So this is like he's looking into the monitor. We had like this jib arm thing, dolly. We're kind of moving around. The narrative of this story is young student loans. His name is Han. So this is like Han as himself on the set of the Young Student Loans video, where he is also having to be this persona. So it's very self-aware. These are actually his friends in real life, but in the video, they are the actors in the video. And so Han, as Young Student Loans, is having trouble hitting it off with the girl in his video who maybe he is romantically interested in. Very convoluted.
Yes. deep stuff. Hey, so just back to This Is America for a second. So Clarence just asked, so were there lens grids shot on This Is America, or did the VFX artist just figure the stitch out?
I don't believe they were grid shot. We shot, Larkin, who shot it, shot a 35 millimeter film. It was not motion controlled. It was Steadicam. And something else, I believe. And so, so it was just when you talk about doing a stitch, we actually did a stitch in this video that I can kind of talk about. But when you talk about doing a stitch where it's not motion control, where there's a difference in what your A frame is and what your B frame is, what you have to do is you basically have to scale them both up, position, rotation, 3D space, so that you have a moment that's exactly in sync. And then you want to keyframe to those repositioned.
Yeah.
And that's the art, right? The art of it is like, what's your stitch? What's the frame that blends them? And then how do you get there in a way that feels organic? Thankfully, in This Is America, that specific moment was on a tilt up as the camera.
Yeah.
So it's a very forgiving place to do a stitch.
Is there some motion blur, or there's some elements that it just kind of masked?
Yeah, it just kind of
it just worked. Yeah,
it just worked. There's a little blur. There's a little of all those things. Harder to do those stitches if it's like, a locked off shot or something very steady with people in the frame.
Right. He's all the way over here, but in this take, he's all the way over here. It's not gonna be so easy. Yeah.
So this is a moment we thought it would be funny if he held up a light meter as if maybe he's the one determining these things. I also really liked just seeing him repeated in the monitor. I just thought that was a fun gag.
Yeah.
So that's kind of all of that. And then we'll get through this. This is just kind of more lights, you get all these inserts, you get those options. This was a moment where we had kind of this dolly in. So that one's kind of fast. My favorite stuff with this was kind of when she starts to look out the window. And again, this is what I was talking about with the poor man's process. If you added kind of a little camera shake to this and the sound of a car, and maybe you threw a color grade on it that was a little darker, you could start to kind of pass this as maybe this was, her actually riding in the back of a car versus being on a soundstage. A lot of TV shows will do that. They shoot stuff on soundstage because it's easier than actually driving a car around with your very, expensive talent in it. So that's that. This is a moment where we're just kind of showing the two actors, even though they're friends of the artist, kind of canoodling in the back of the car. So we've got just kind of a couple of options.
I gotta tell you, man, too, just like, and this is, I know you've applied a lot already, but this is like your on-site lighting, whatever you're doing. I mean, these shots just there's something so inviting about these shots. I know, I mean, they're warm, but there's really, and you're using like different color and different, like you have sort of the purple hued shot at the computer there before. Something about these is just, it's really eye-catching. Yeah, like it's just.
That's Mr. Eric Bader, the great director of photography. He brought in just such a fun collection. I mean, lights have come so far.
Oh yeah. So again, that in the last couple of years, especially, right, with LED panels and all these different options now.
Not to get too lost, but like these guys, these tubes on the side here are all set up, and like he's operating all of this stuff off an iPad. It's all controlled wirelessly.
Right.
So he's able to do chases, and it used to be.
It's amazing.
It used to be somebody having to turn a bunch of dials in real time, and now you can just press a button.
Well,
it's amazing.
and I can remember doing a shoot. I mean, this is, gosh, I don't know. It's more than 10 years ago where, and we were on like a small soundstage, but it was, sort of computer, mixer controlled, like PAR 64 lamps.
Yeah.
So aside from just the massive physical presence of all this gear that was required to do it, and the limitations of actually manually having to change, the filters or whatever it was for color and things like that.
Right.
You just had this, the heat output, like on set was just, it was so unbearable. And I remember we had fans going and everything. And I mean, it was like one of the PAs was like just there to like dab sweat, because
Yeah,
it was
totally,
just
totally.
so freaking hot. Yeah. Yeah.
No, the lights have changed the game just as much as like the software stuff has. I mean, I remember, not to make myself sound too old, but I remember trying to author a DVD in high school, and it literally took 24 hours.
Right.
And, and it was at the computer lab at where I went to high school. And my mom was like, "Why are you still there? It's 10 o'clock at night." And I'm like, "I'm waiting for this
It's
DVD."
not done. Right. Yeah.
And now
So
we can export literally on the feature I was cutting earlier this year. We would do an entire export of the entire hour and a half cut in 25 minutes to H.264, which is like,
right. Which is like just unheard of thinking back. So, hey, two quick questions before you move on. So, Firas is asking, he just asked a question about, and maybe you didn't encounter this here, working with multiple frame rates. So, like in the case of he's saying, so you shot two different cameras, one's 24, one's 25. The final video should be in 24. Converting 25 to 24 won't be as smooth. I mean, I work with multiple frame rates a lot because, again, a lot of the stuff that I get is typically a combo of mirrorless DSLR, sometimes a C flavor of Canon, and then iPhones. You've got these mixed frame rates. I would say to that, we do a much better job these days in terms of the frame rate conversion, to the point where, yes, if you're looking for these things, you might see them, you may notice, but I don't know what your experience with that is as of late. I don't think it's as obvious or as detrimental as it once was.
Yeah, I haven't run into that too often. I will say that I literally can't remember last time I cut something 2997.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. That's been a long time. And again, the only reason I ever encounter that is because the iPhone default, I think, is still 2997 or 30.
Yes, somebody doesn't. Yeah,
which is great if you're like cutting in Pro Tools. I mean, audio really is the only one that still uses a standard 30, and no one uses that in audio anyway. So
yeah, definitely in the music video world, the DPs are pretty adamant about 24 frame time based.
Right.
I mean, the C200 is a fun little thing because in Canon Raw Light it does true 24 and not 23.76.
Not 23976. Right. Yep.
So like I did a documentary pilot last year that was C200 B cam, Alexa A cam, and we just ran the Alexa at true 24, so it matched. But even if we hadn't, there might be some slip. But I mean, there's enough edits usually in a music video that you're like, if you need to nudge something a frame or two, it's not a problem. And then even then, like, you're probably nudging things a frame or two anyway because performance is not always perfect. Your artists, even the best artist in the world, the best musician in the world, is not a robot. So they're having their own stuff on set on day. Maybe they forget a line, they forget a moment.
Right.
Or
maybe their timing is just off, or there's the delay from what they're hearing out of the loudspeaker on set to how it gets captured. Right. There's all these little slip and slide necessities. And that's the other thing too. Now, I don't know if you often go into like the audio time units where you can now move it subframe in Premiere, but I mean, kind of speaks directly to that, right? Where if you do find yourself needing to slip,
show audio time units.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can.
I mean, you can go in like super minutia. We do a lot of in the commercial world, because music is very fluid. They're trying to clear a song, they're trying to license something, a composer's coming in, maybe it's a stock audio track that needs to be tweaked for an edit. We do a lot of music edits in the commercial world where it's go into the audio time units, we're pulling out like this little chunk to loop it so we get an extra 10 seconds here and then the hit happens here. That's definitely a thing you run into. Not so much in music videos, just because the music is the product. They don't usually like to tweak it or change it too much. Was that the only question, or was there any?
Yeah. That's the one I wanted to bring up, because we had a couple questions about that. And yes, seeing Julian is saying 30 to 24 is still obvious if you don't slow it to 80%. I think it depends, right? I mean, and in a lot of cases, I guess one question too. I mean, if you're now, of course, you talked yesterday about doing kind of offlines, but transcoding in general. Would you recommend in scenarios like that to convert things ahead of time, or just leave them at their native frame rates?
I generally prefer to leave things at the native frame rate, and then I will go into like we didn't shoot anything 60 on this one, but I will go in and Premiere and interpret.
Yeah, I was going to say do the interpret footage. Yeah,
a standard frame rate and do it that way. If the camera doesn't bake it in, if you overcrank on an Alexa, it just is going to bake it in no matter
Right.
what. It's going to do it to the time base of the camera. So most of the time base is set to 24. They'll overcrank to say 60 or 48 or whatever it is, and then that footage just comes in natively playback in slow motion. In that case, like I was saying earlier, there's a couple directors I've worked with who'd like to shoot everything at 48 or 60, so they have flexibility.
Right.
It's really important then that I know from set what they were shooting at, because
Right.
what I'll do is I'll then go in and speed these clips up.
Right.
And so they'll play back in real time, and then at any moment,
Right.
if I will go back down to the slow motion, to the overcrank, I can.
Yep. You can. Yep. Makes total
yeah.
sense.
Cool. Well, if you remember from yesterday, this beautiful little setup of different
Yes.
clips, basically, we're going to kind of do the same thing we did in the no sync sequence, but a little bit different this time, just because I don't want to make you guys watch through 44 different options. But basically, what I'll do is when I get a song, the first thing I do is actually I listen to the song and I try to find. This might be a hair too low. I go through the song and I find, most songs follow, if you've ever taken like a history of, music class, most songs follow some sort of intro or chorus, bridge, outro type thing.
Standard song forms. Yeah.
Standard song form. So what I like to do is I like to listen to the track down. And so like this one, this little chunk here is just kind of this little intro. The beat comes in here, and I'll kind of speed through this if I've listened to it a couple times. So this is his chorus. And then this is where kind of the first verse starts. And then I also like to keep track of anytime like the beat drops out or there's like a big change, I will actually kind of denote that too. And so then we're back at a chorus. And each song is different. So like there's no kind of rule to this, but I'll show you why I'm doing this as soon as we get through it. So that's a chorus. This is going to be the second verse. And then we're kind of back into a chorus, but this is kind of transitioning into a bridge. He's got this sample in here, and then we're back to a real chorus. So I'm gonna actually call this a bridge. What I'm doing here is I'm just kind of splitting out similar things.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this an opportunity where you might also do you color code sections of the song, or do you mark it in any way? I mean, I see you're kind of stacking, but do you do anything pretty like you have a standard flow for this?
This is my outro. Yeah. So what I'll do here is I will now color code these. I just kind of walk down the different names. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. I just want similar things to be the same color. So now what I can do is I can put all my music back in place. And I can look at it and I can see, okay, this is my intro, this is my outro, this is the bridge, these are the verses, these are the choruses. This is kind of a chorus going into bridge. And so what this lets me do is at any point I can just kind of visually know where the changes are in the song. You know, I like to say that, or I'd like to think that like anytime I'm making a big edit, change. So like if we're going from one performance setup to another performance setup, if we're introducing a new character or a new location, you know, you want these things to kind of land on the song.
Right.
A video I just did is fresh in my mind. There's this gag of an item causes like a freeze in time and everybody's frozen. You want those things to land as much as you can on changes in the song because it inherently brings clarity to it, right? If a big moment narratively is landing in the middle of a verse, it doesn't accentuate it. And so you can't always do this, but I'd like to try to do it. The other thing I'll do that's in a similar vein is if I know there are different sections, different locations or different whatever in my story, I also like to take my text tool and let's just say this is like, wait. Yeah. So let's just say like our story has a coffee shop. Right?
I was trying to figure. I didn't know what you were going for. I was like beginning. I didn't know.
Yeah. So like say we have a coffee shop, and then say we also have a telephone booth, and maybe we have a. Why can't I think of places right now?
Yeah, gas station. I don't know.
Yeah, gas station. Yeah. Another thing I like to do is I will come up to this space here with my text tool, and I will put these little kind of reminders.
Yeah, nice.
I can disable them. I can lock it, but like this is another just kind of another way for me to visualize.
Right.
Maybe it's a little hard to see
duration and timing in a scene. That's actually great. That's a really great tip.
And so it's like it's fun because what you can do then is you can say, okay, we're in the telephone booth through the end of verse 1. The chorus, it changes, and we got to get in that coffee shop. So that happens there, and then maybe coffee shop carries us to here, and then we get gas station to the end. And so you're able to, like, these things can change. There's a fluidity to it. Obviously, maybe the footage maybe we don't have enough gas station footage to carry that much of the song, but it's a way to just like very quickly and visually keep track of all these moving parts. So that, again, when I'm sitting with my director, it's not a game of, oh, let me scrub up, there it is. I can just know right away where these beats are, where this moment is. And I think that's just invaluable to like digging into the creative of this stuff. And so then similar thought. This video doesn't really call for this, what I'm about to do, because so much of it is intentionally kind of locked in place.
Right.
But if we were doing something that was more performance oriented, a lot of videos I've done have had, 5 members of the band, and you have a whole band set up, and you have a bass player and a drummer and a lead singer and a guitarist, and they all get their own coverage, something that's a lot more kind of live feeling. I'll do this. I'll do this too for this type of video, just so I get a sense of it. But what I do is I will play the track. I have nothing selected, and I will drop markers where I feel like cuts should happen.
Right.
So I'll do this for a second.
Tell me how to get my shit online, yeah, yeah. If you want it, you can get it in my line, yeah, yeah. Play the game if you want, it's a tie.
And this is really awkward to do with people watching.
Right, yeah.
Because I'll close my eyes, I'll think about it.
Yeah, right.
And what you're doing, or what I'm doing as I do this, is it's hard to do as I talk as well.
Right, yes.
But what I'm doing is I'm setting a pace. You know, maybe the song changes up here and we're like, we want more cuts, right? So we're on the beat, you know, and then maybe we want to lay back a little bit and we slow it down and we're listening to that snare or that kick or whatever it is. You're listening to the vocals. And what I'll do is I'll go through and I will basically drop markers on the beat.
Right.
Sometimes this can be a little annoying if you do it in your main sequence, so I'll do it in kind of main sequence.
Yeah.
But then what I love to do is I have keyboards shortcut set up where shift up and shift down let me move between my markers. Control V lets me razor blade basically all the way down.
Yeah.
And so I can just go very quickly and just kind of go through all of these things, and I can start razor blading to the beat.
Nice.
And so I don't have to edit, you know, I mean, what is that? 50, not 50, it's 20 minutes. I don't
20 cuts, yeah, right.
I don't have to cut in every of those places, but I know now that those cuts are happening on the beat. If this was very performance oriented and not kind of a structured intentional thing, I would then go through, actually, I'm doing this in reverse. Pretend I did not just razor blade all of those things. I will watch down each take. So let me actually just pull them off of this one. I will watch down each take with the take selected. And I'm watching the take and I'm like, okay, I love what's happening here. Oh, that's great. You know, and so I'm just spamming markers basically on things.
Right.
So in this scenario, it's a drummer and we've got a steady cam running up to the drummer and running away from the drummer. Anytime that drummer is doing something really cool, I'm spamming the marker button.
Right.
So now if you imagine, let me get rid of these ad edits real quick. Now, if you imagine that I've gone through and I've dropped markers, you know, on all of these clips, things I love. This is the Ernie secret. Maybe other people do this. I don't want to take.
I should bring up a graphic overlay. Ernie's secrets.
Right. I don't want to take
all that right now.
But yeah, so let's just say, like, I just did these randomly, but let's just say hypothetically, all of these markers I just dropped were like my favorite bit of that take. So now, if I go and do my beat, add edit, razor blade all the way down. Somebody yesterday asked, like, how do you start an edit? This is how I do it. I moneyball it. And this gives me a starting point that I can then tweak from. So now I can look at this and I can say, okay, that wasn't my favorite. None of this was, I didn't really love this. That one worked. That was that.
Okay.
This. None of this really worked. That was cool. So, I mean, I drop these markers randomly. Don't judge me on this edit.
Right.
This video was not shot this way. You know, this was a little bit more intentional.
Right. No, but I like this because this really speaks to what you were talking to yesterday, which is having those tracks up at the top, which like the continue. Oh, you can always go back to him singing or whatever, or, you know, lip syncing. And then you got all these cuts in between. And I love just the concept of kind of going, yeah, these don't work, taking them out, making kind of, they're destructive, but non-destructive decisions. You can always bring it back.
Yeah, this is very, very importantly, make another sequence. So
Right.
much of what's great about this is you can have multiple sequences. You can have a pass that you do this, where you get
Right.
you get your favorite things, and it's all in one place. You can then go back and have the sequence that you didn't do this in, and you
Right.
can have your multicam that you have access to. It's like, it's all about just having those options.
That's a
Um,
really great point, dude. I can't emphasize that enough to people. Like, yeah, if you want to try something, just duplicate your sequence. It doesn't
duplicate-
inflate the project file. It doesn't add duplicate media. I mean, there's no reason not to, just to be experimental. And even I, who know this well, in the past, I found myself not doing that and then
Right.
changing like the main sequence. And then, you go down the rabbit hole of ideas, and then you're just like, you're too far gone
Yeah, you can only
to undo it all.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, you can, but then you're too far back. So along these lines, Thomas just asked, do you ever work with any kind of pre-production elements, like, for example, production boards?
Oh, 100%. The what I've done here with the text where it says telephone booth, coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
If I have storyboards, I'm cutting those in up there.
Right.
And so then what I can do with that is I can hit play on the boards and see how the boards time out. I'll do actually a paper edit in Premiere with my boards before I even touch any of the footage, if I have access to boards. A lot of commercials will come with boards. And so it's like, you cut that in, you can time it out. And then as you're pulling those selects from the footage, you're already thinking about it in context. You're already thinking about it holistically. You have the ability to change and to tweak, and maybe a shot comes in longer and it's awesome. But yeah, no, boards are great. I'm always cutting those in. If I don't
Nice.
have boards,
Yeah.
I'm doing kind of the text option.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Love
this,
it.
like, I'm going to press play on this just 'cause I'm really curious what it looks like.
Yeah. All right, here I'm gonna go full screen so everyone can see it.
If you want, it's a tie, yeah. To your boyfriend, Romy, you must die, yeah. I remember you used to call me all the time, yeah. I would listen, you would talk and you cry, yeah. No, it hurts when you hear me tell a lie, yeah. There's a reboot, so put that shit aside, yeah. If you push me your way.
So I mean, that doesn't work because what happens in the video is these are all my stacks here are not different takes with different band members. My stacks here are very similar takes, but you get a sense. It's basically just, you can let yourself kind of run wild with. I mean, maybe this is a better example because these are what I called yesterday, these master takes.
Right.
By doing stacks like this, it's nice because you can start to carve away, what where you're jumping between shots. And I do this too, where I am, this is my third take, this bottom one's my first take, this is second. You're trying stuff where you peel back and you're always cutting the beat, because I've done these beat markers.
Right.
Yeah. Play the game if you want, it's a tie, yeah. To your boyfriend, Romy, you must die, yeah. I remember you used to call me all the time.
So yeah, so that's kind of another way you can just. It's all about just getting kind of some garbage in your timeline that you can then react to and tweak and change. I always need like compare and contrast. I would much rather have a bad edit that I make better than stare at no edit at all. That's just how my brain works. Everybody's a little bit different. So I guess let's just we'll look at clear these markers out real quick. Should set up a hotkey for this.
By the way, we're getting a lot of comments in the various chats that just that tip about duplicating sequences.
Uh-huh.
A couple people here saying I never really did that because I was afraid it would inflate my project size significantly, and someone else is saying I always thought it would duplicate media. Yeah, no, I mean, there may have been a period in time where maybe we did do that in Premiere many moons ago, but
that was the first thing I learned as an assistant editor in reality television was like, before I touched any editor's project or sequence, I would duplicate.
Right. Duplicate. Yep.
The
exactly.
worst thing in the world is to get into somebody's sequence, mess something up, and not be able to revert back.
Not be able to go back. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so deleted those markers. So yeah, so I'm just going to kind of start peeling this away. This, the move here, we did two of these. Camera's kind of floating. We rotate. We get Han, we get Young Student Loans, driving, and then we've got we know that we're going to have this beat hit right here. And so the treatment, the concept here was we introduce real driving car mount footage, and then we transition inside to reveal that we're actually on a soundstage.
Right.
Which is kind of funny, or at least it's funny to me, because it's like, well, we had the car mount. Why don't we just shoot the whole thing in the car?
For all the reasons you discussed yesterday, though, right?
Yeah. Well, it's also, I mean, to me, it's kind of a wink and a nod at how we do all these things. So, I had 2 takes of that. Let's just go with the second take. That's kind of a general, there's a general rule in editing. The later takes are generally, they figured out the camera, actor figured out performance. It's not always the case. I've worked on some shows and some projects where like take 2 is the best, because by the time, your actor gets to take 6, maybe they're not as into it. It just depends. That's part of the dance. But for today, we're going to kind of just look at these later takes and kind of assume that that's kind of what was working the best. So we start in the car, we rotate, and then by the time we're kind of in.
Tell me how to get my shit in line.
So for me, I'm constantly, as I'm working through an edit, what I love about editing is just nothing is locked in place. This is why I don't think I could ever be an editor on actual film, because the thought of like changing an edit and then having to reprint something just sounds terrible.
Right. Right.
But to me, it's just a constant tweaking and massaging. So like, let's say we're going to use this take. The next shot was a close-up, dolly out to reveal kind of our set. And if I just kind of flip these on and off, you can kind of see that the same action is happening. So this is something we were trying to nail on the day. You can see, though, that the timing's a little different, right? Like where the camera, how far out the camera is changed a little each time. And so this is part of the editing process, is you would want to watch through all of these takes. You're thinking about the artist's performance. You're thinking about the camera. Like if a take has a bump in the camera where it, I don't remember which one it was. I do remember we hit this light that our guy was spinning. We hit this light with the jib at one point. You don't want to use that take, right? So at this point, all of this stuff is synced. It's all saved in another sequence. I can start like deleting stuff out, and it's okay because I can always reference back. So in this case, let's just say hypothetically, all of these takes are bad. Performance is bad, focus is bad, whatever, right? And maybe we've just got these 4 now. So that just makes it a whole lot easier to start, you can start looking at this and saying, okay, I know this piece. I like the move, and I like the performance.
Tell me how to get my shit in line, yeah. If you want it, you can get it in my line, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I don't want to sit on this shot. Like the camera in this shot starts to move around here. Yeah. So I'll drop an ad edit, and like I can start to like kind of compare these things. So like in this shot, the camera starts to move there. In this shot, the camera's moving significantly earlier. This one's kind of in the middle. So what I can start to do now is I can start to say, okay, I know in one of these shots, I want to be cutting to this as the camera's starting to move.
Right.
I want to feel better. And so what I can do is I can play this back. I can say, I'll just do this way from here. So like that cut feels pretty good, right?
Yeah. Go full screen again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make this bigger. So yeah, so that feels pretty cool. Maybe we want to be out of the practical driving sooner. So like this take, like I was showing, kind of offered a cut point that was a little bit sooner.
my shit online, yeah. If you want it, you can get it in my line, yeah. Play the game if you want. It's a tie,
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that. So, again, just because we're flying through this, let's choose that one. And so this is the game, right? We're going to go through. Just see if enough time for questions. So I might fly through this a little bit, but basically, I'm making these choices. I'm comparing, my options because I've done the due diligence. I've got them all at my fingertips.
Right.
And I'm just, I'm trying to build out a version of this that's entertaining and intriguing. So this shot, again, kind of starts with him, and then we go in the back seat. We have the light change gag. And let's just say we're going to use that last take. Yeah, that feels. And so again, this shot, how far out do we want to go? We did the action on set where we had this person come in and hand some water bottles, but maybe that shot's dead by then. Maybe it really just needs to go to here before that person comes in.
Yeah. No, it hurts when you hear me tell a lie. Yeah. Just a reboot, so put that shit aside. Yeah. If you push me away, I might fall off a cliff. I might fall out your life. Maybe get into lift until another guy's house. They'll love you better. I'm trying to tell you the truth. That's why I wrote you this letter.
Cool. So I know for a fact that because we did this on the actual edit of the song, this camera move past this seat kind of slows things down a little bit, right? Because maybe we want to get into this space a little bit quicker. There's some fun places you can kind of start to, because the screen goes totally black. I think in the actual edit we used a different take where it was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. We can actually pull out, like I'm pulling out. This is just little things you learn. This is 7 frames, so almost a third of a second.
Right.
By cutting on when this goes totally dark, we can make this look like a seamless.
Nice. Little tricks right there, but that's so cool. I mean, it really feels so organic too. There's something really very pleasing to the eye about that.
So that pulled some time out. This shot, kind of dies as well after they start. They're kind of talking and laughing. So I think we'll cut out of that. And this is where you start to notice, like, because of how we structured this and organized everything, I have a pretty big gap here.
Yep.
This is 18 seconds out of a 3-minute song. That's a pretty big gap where I'm not seeing synced performance stuff. So that's something I need to keep in my head. Like, okay, that's right. Are we going to go to the master performance backup tape?
Right.
Is this where we inject some of our narrative stuff? And again, I'm just kind of flying through this. So we can get to a place. So again, this is a moment. I think the line here is, forever alone, that's what I get. So we wanted this moment to land on that line when he's trying to kind of talk up the model from his music video shoot, and she doesn't give him the time of day. So that goes in there. And then this was a fun gag we had where we wanted him to turn the steering wheel and then reveal that the dolly grips are actually just spinning
the car.
Again, it's kind of tongue in cheek. So we shot that actually from 2 angles. And so, this is just about your kind of classic cutting on movement.
Right.
We're just kind of
forever alone.
Hey, so while you're doing that, just a quick question from DPK on something I get asked a lot too, and I'm sure your answer is the same. But so when you're laying down your markers on the beat, so the question is, should we start it exactly on the beat or 1 to 2 frames before or after? And of course, there's always a little bit of latency. Depends on your system, sound device, how you're playing out. That can introduce more. But I think in general, you want to be on the beat, but potentially a frame or two before, generally not after, right, for your video cuts.
It really is just a feel thing.
Right.
I like to, again, I'm dropping those markers not as like a end all be all. This is what it has to be. That's
Right.
just step one.
It's reference timing.
It's step one. I'll get to a point later in the edit where literally I'll delete all those markers out. And then at that point, it's just, you play it back. Did that feel right? Let me try, being able to just like select a clip, type in -2, and now I've extended that clip back 2 frames. Clicking here, typing +2, and like I'm constantly kind of doing those things as I'm editing to really just massage and tweak, and a lot of it is, it's pressing play up, maybe that's a little too early, right? So it's
right.
Tell me how to get my shit.
But maybe I do like it a little early.
Right.
And that's the dance, right? That's how.
Right. Yeah, it's not absolute, and I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Right. And this is again where, for those, particularly with like B-roll, but if you're brave, this is where you can also, if you're really trying to get something, the cut on beat, and it doesn't necessarily fall on a frame boundary, this is where you can go into show audio time units and actually slip things. You got to be really careful with that, of course, but
yeah, definitely.
You can move things and, have it really attack. But in general, I mean, just as you were doing, and it was coming through really nicely on stream, when you're laying in those markers, if you've got, a fairly decent system that can handle the footage you're throwing at it, as you're implementing those markers, there may be milliseconds of latency, but they should fall relatively around, right on the beat-ish. And then you can, of course, use the waveform display to verify that. I mean, that's the other nice thing. Even when music is just completely compressed and sometimes hard to visualize, if you're looking at particularly like rectified waveforms, which is the default in Premiere, and of course you lowered the gain, so it's a little harder to see here. But as you zoom in, you can see the attack transients. Yeah, there you go. You can see the attacks of like kick and snare a little bit more easily. So you kind of know, like, all right, I'm way off, or no, I'm way on.
I like having my audio scrub when I play back, or audio playback when I scrub, which
when you scrub, yeah,
audio setting, and so that at any point I can kind of just step through. Maybe my keyboard's too loud, but there's a hand clap happening here or something,
right, and snap or whatever it is. Yeah,
kind of zoom in on that and pull that in. But just to fly through our ending here, so this setup this is one we kind of, I remember struggling with a little on set. The idea is we get kind of, we were embracing too, the slate is not actually for sync at all. It was a prop to be a part of the video. Our wonderful wardrobe stylist Roxanne was actually here doing that, and so we did. We'll just kind of pull this shot as an option, and then we're doing kind of this push-in motion. We'll just kind of pull this last one as an option. So this is kind of a similar. You can see actually. Look at the purple takes and the blue takes. That was all just us trying to kind of nail a wonky piece of gear and nail a pretty complicated move. If I was doing this edit for real, I would be digging in and like pulling our favorite version of these things. But just to get us through, because I want to show kind of what's important to me is showing this next step.
Right.
And so then the end of the video is how we started. I'll delete that for now. So the end of the video That's how we started. We go back out of the world of the studio to the car. And this is, we actually, a friend did a VFX stitch for me. I liked the ending, so you can see how the camera pans, and we're, here.
Mm-hmm.
I liked this one that had this random car that wasn't ours with the hazard lights on.
Okay.
It just seemed like a fun ending to the video. It felt real, but we liked the timing of his lip sync and where it landed, and the pan started earlier. So what we ended up doing is we did a stitch, kind of in this space. And so this is just no VFX at all, because things are similar enough. This is what I was talking about with the This Is America video. That's our A frame, that's our B frame. Your VFX artist would want to go in here and kind of, smooth out and make it feel like, we're not getting this bump, we're, maybe this is actually a little bit later. There's a way to do that. I won't dig too deep into that. And you can stitch two things together. So, this is fastest edit I've ever done.
Right.
It's not even a full edit, right? We have two pretty glaring gaps.
Still some holes. So here's another question for you though, because I actually like this, and this is more about, again, your process, but how you're bringing things down, you're cleaning it up. Do you ever leave, like, are you because I know I sometimes do this where it's like, all right, I'm gonna leave this other take on this track, just maybe. I sometimes find it hard to kind of really make that decision. Or do you ultimately clean it up so there's nothing in there that's not meant to be seen or shown?
So the reason I'm cleaning up right now is actually
to reveal any holes or gaps or need for content.
I like to move things down, and then I'm able to kind of cleanly, if I label this all violet, I'm able now to start with my, kind of compare contrast.
Right.
I'm able to start working in, if I go to my no sync, selects poles. So duplicate this, pull it in here, Adobe. So these were the no sync things I had pulled earlier. We can use our fun close gap command. And so these were all those selects I had pulled earlier, right, of them in the back, her, the lights, him at the monitor, the hat, So what I like to do now is I'll take all of these, and this video is a little bit more kind of random. If this was something that was more linear, something that had a start, beginning, middle, end, we're going from point A to point B, I would have those in order. But what I like to do now is I can just kind of take this, I can move this stuff over the top. This moment I have, or let's see. So like I pulled 2 moments of her in the car. What I can start doing is I can say to myself, maybe before we see her in the back seat with this other character, maybe we want to introduce her earlier. And so I start placing these things. So I have this base, right? If you think about it logically, I've gone through and I've said, these are the pieces of footage that have to live where they live.
Right.
They're stuck to the track. It's somebody lip syncing, it's performance. I take those pieces and I find my favorite of them. Not only do I find my favorite, but I cut them to the beat.
Right.
You could almost do a video. I mean, there's some gaps.
Right.
You could almost do a video that has no narrative already.
Right.
Again, it's this idea of starting with something that's workable and then just making it better. And so what I'll do now is I'll start to take these pieces, him at the light, him, walking up to the milkman stuff.
The milk bottles, yeah.
So I start putting these things here. These were our takes from yesterday that I called safety takes, right? That's a performance shot through the whole time. I would have gone through these and done my marker trick and found the moments I really liked. Like there's fun stuff in here, just so I don't have to yell over the music. There's fun stuff in here where, he's getting touched up and singing. That just like things that I just really enjoy from this footage. It just feels very self-aware.
Yeah.
I can start kind of cutting these things in too. I'm just kind of bringing these things down. Maybe I want to leave that take in its entirety up there because I know that at any point I can cut to that. And so here at this point, what I'm doing is I'm just starting to build out, I'm thinking about pace. And, as you start to look at this stuff, you'll start to realize that like, okay, this is my verse, this is my chorus, that's where those things are landing. You'll start to see the length of clips and you're not even having to look at what's the clip is. I mean, you can scale it up and you can see your thumbnails if you need to, but you start to see where like the pace of your edit is slower and the pace of your edit is faster. And you just start to plug in these gaps. And this is where I like to talk about, and I have editor friends, director friends, there's just happy accidents that come in editing, things you never intended, but you start just playing stuff back and you're like, okay, we're coming out of the car, and then we're in here. Oh, maybe she's in the back seat and he's driving. That's kind of cool.
Right. That's I was gonna say that's really cool. That was like a reveal right there.
I didn't actually do that in our actual video.
Right.
Because now she's in the back with him.
With it, right. Oh,
yeah, cool. This video. But and then the other stuff too, like this performance setup, that's something that's just kind of fun, and then now all of a sudden we're building up kind of the montage of what this edit can be, right? We're in the flow of it, where we're reacting to things. We're not being precious. We're not being paralyzed by like, I get so paralyzed when I'm staring at a bunch of footage. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Real quick sidebar.
Yeah.
I often feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I don't belong. So if you feel that way, it's normal and we just got to work through it.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to do and to try and to like fall on your face and get back up again. Sorry to get cliche.
No,
you start to get into the flow of this stuff and you're reacting to it. And this is, to me, I've done at this point, I've done 8 hours of work to get to this point on the video. I will spend an hour on this part and it's the most fun. And then I have a cut that I'm ready to share with my director.
Right.
And by top loading it, by doing all of that prep work first,
right,
it's all at my fingertips. It's all ready to go. And we can then just play. And I can sit with the director and he can be like, I remember this take where we started in the front seat and we went to the back and it was a little bit different. This is my multicam that I made yesterday of all the takes. I turn this on, I step in here and I say, okay, you have, I'm gonna point my screen.
All your shot. Right. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes. And we can literally just watch those back. We can start here and we can say, okay. Oh, don't like that one. What about this one? And we're in the flow of creativity. We're in the flow of making an edit. And then from there, I could do a whole day on how to best online these things and prep them, but I don't want to bore us. Basically, it's my process is I'll make a new project. I will basically, let's say, okay, so this is the sequence we've been working in.
Right. So you import that sequence into a new project and reconnect to the master media.
Yeah. I'll call this lock cut. I'll actually save it, export selection as Premiere project. What that'll do then is I can. So this is my Adobe Lock project. It is only going to pull in the stuff that I used in that sequence. And then from here, I will throw everything offline. I'll relink it to the native footage. I'll just do a couple of these.
Yep. Actually, this is perfect timing because Emmanuel Salgado was asking you right now, what do you mean online this footage? You're explaining it right now, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. Basically, what we talked about yesterday is at the start of any project, I take the camera native. So in this case, C200 Canon RAW Light. A lot of times it's like ProRes Quad from an Alexa or 3Ds from a Red. I make 1080p ProRes LT transcodes of that footage so that when I'm working on my offline, I can have 50 tracks playing back off of like a lacy drive over USB. It's just having light, quick footage that I'm never waiting on anything. But once you get to the place where you're locked, you want to be able to go back to that master media. Your colorist, your VFX artist, the finishing wants access to the 4K, to the RAW, to whatever it is. So onlining just means going back to that footage. So like, for example, these top 3 clips, if I do this one, we go to link media. This is A20CO11. Let's see. Where are you? Oh, sorry. If you have display only exact name, it's not going to show anything. Exactly. So this is A20CO11. So if I scroll down here and find A20CO11, I hit OK. That footage is now on, quote unquote, online. And you'll notice right away, like, why are we
back to flat? Right, exactly.
No, why are we flat footage? Why are we in a close-up all of a sudden?
Right.
And so
full res, yeah, exactly.
So what I'll do then is, this footage was shot 4K DCI, which is 4096 by 2160. Mm-hmm. I will then, and this is the game changer for me, is if I go to sequence settings, I go to 4960, 2160. I hit OK, or let me zoom in on that so you can see it. Hit OK. Change preview files format. It's going to delete my previews. That's okay. Boom. So now this footage that is 4K, I'm in a 4K sequence with this footage. Let's say hypothetically, we wouldn't do this, but let's say hypothetically, this footage had been rotated and scaled up for some reason.
Right.
That was a stylistic choice. It's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. Actually, that looks neat.
If this footage, if this was still the, if we had done this in the offline 200% 90 degrees to the 1080p, when I relink to the 4K and I set my sequence to the 4K, all of this scale, position, rotation, all of these things match. So I'm not having to go through and reapply filters and do the math of like, well, it was 110% scale up at 1080, but now I'm in 4K. Is it still 100? All of that is the same. And so it makes online and getting this project in a place where I'm ready to share it with the color house or VFX or whatever finishing makes that all super easy. Yeah. At this point, I've reconnected to this media. Everybody's got a different workflow. Some workflows ask for a flat file with an EDL, some want an XML, some want all the raw media, and they just want files that point to that media. That's a whole other discussion. But basically, I'm able then to, in Premiere, I could prep for color, and then I can round trip it back into Premiere, and I can do all my finishing in Premiere. We can make our final file. We actually, on the This Is America video, we're up against a very hard deadline. I actually drove down to Culver City to the color house and sat and waited for them to spit out the colored footage. And then on my laptop, reassembled it, hit export and upload it from there. There's no need to go into a Flame or Nuke or any other finishing software. It was just all within Premiere the entire time. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, maybe like I feel like I just flew through 1,000 things. So maybe Are there questions? Are there thoughts? I'd love to. I want to talk about that thing we talked about, Jason, but I'd love to kind of dig into any technical questions before I do that.
Yeah, here I'm looking to see if there's any ones that I haven't. Okay. Okay, these are some like random QE type questions. I don't know if these are necessarily relative. So here's one about when I'm trying to move some of my tracks forward in the timeline. Sometimes it messes up some of my audio positioning. Any idea what might be the cause of some of the audio track to lose its original position? I'm not exactly sure what you mean, Michelle. I mean, if you mean that they're becoming unlinked, or because obviously if things are already synced and you shift them, but if the audio is not following the video, I think we need a little more info around that.
Yeah, I guess a couple things I am in the habit of doing is like I will use the lock to toggle.
Yeah,
and
you mentioned that.
Audio in place
for that specific reason. I imagine
you do have to be careful though. As you're, this, where is it? Like this shot, this big pull out we did. If I do start to nudge this over here, well, now that's not in sync anymore.
Right. His lips aren't in sync anymore. Yeah.
And so to me, that's maybe it's a forced habit I've learned over the years of just always, as I'm dragging things around, I want to point at the screen, but you guys can't see that.
Right.
I'm very cognizant, if you can see here, of this time code readout that says +00, or I'm
however many frames. Right. Exactly.
I'm kind of always cognizant, making sure that if I'm moving something up or down, I'm on the +0. It's not changing. A thing that helps with that is in your keyboard shortcuts, there's a nudge option that I have set up to command up or down, and I'm able to just kind of push these things up or down, and there's no risk of them moving left or right unless
no slipping in time. Right. Exactly. So here's a great one. Actually, I was going to ask you about this because this is something that I'm always curious when people do use it. Do you use the project manager for so you're done with this video now. We're going to take it off the Lacy drive and archive it. Do you use project manager to clean things up, or do you kind of just your own project the way you began it is organized enough with all the master 1080 copies that you just leave it as is?
I generally leave it as is. On Atlanta, we would use Project Manager to prep some of our turnovers.
Okay. Just to probably minimize the content that wasn't used, so it's easier to transfer.
Not have to transfer as many things. Same with Baskets. Baskets was red, and you're not able to. Trying to remember, this has been several years, so I don't want to misquote anything, but it was a situation where we had like a master storage on location that we were working of, and then we needed to send over to color just trimmed files, and so Project Manager was great for that. We were able to kind of let Adobe collect those things, put it all in one place for us. What I like about my setup for music videos is oftentimes production will give me a Lacy rugged hard drive. It can all live in that place. I will often save to my own storage my project file and that offline media I make.
Right.
So at any point, if somebody, not that this has ever happened, but at any point, if somebody called me up and was like, we need to re-edit that video from a year ago, we could.
You could. Nice.
But I find that just like setting things up properly at the start just saves all those headaches down the road.
It makes it so that you don't even have to go there if you don't need to. So this is again another one kind of specific around different types of audio workflows, but do you have any specific workflow for audio track sound editing when adding sound design? And I don't know how much sound design you bring into music videos.
We do quite a bit. People, directors and musicians, everybody's trying to find an edge and find a new way to kind of reinvent this stuff. So there's a lot of videos that call for sound design. My biggest thing with that is as I'm not a big, I'm not a sound expert, but what I really like is this Essential Sound panel. So what essential sound, the way I use it is, let's say hypothetically, I wish I had a sound effect for you. Let's say hypothetically, so, we have our song here. Let me turn the gain up on that just a hair. So, we've got this audio. Let's say this was somebody, the music on Atlanta, we would do this a lot. Let's say the music is actually coming through a window, right? Or it's from outside, or, it's coming from a television. What the Essential Sound panel lets you do is you can select a clip, you can give it a tag. If I zoom in, so you can give it a tag: dialogue, music, sound effects, ambience. And under each of these tags are different types of filters. So let's pretend it's dialogue. You got a box of presets. If you've ever used like Adobe Lightroom, it's very similar. It's just simple, straightforward. You start at the top, you work your way down. Like, let's say we want the song to sound like it's coming from a telephone. You click that. You'll see here on the effects controls that it's automatically throwing on like a dynamics processing, a graphic equalizer. It's throwing on these things for you. You don't actually have to step in here if you don't want to.
Right.
Kind of use these tools. And so what's great about this is, like, if I just hit play right away,
Tell me how to get my shit online. Yeah.
Right.
you can already
got a telephone on it, right?
you already hear it from a telephone. If we want to make it distant,
Tell me how to get
that's going to make it distant over an intercom. I actually use this on a Jordan spot where we had Travis Scott coming from a PA, and in the room I was able to just one button press,
Tell me how to get
make it sound like it's over
Nice.
out of an intercom.
That's cool.
You just have these fun, loudness, I believe, is some sort of it tries to level out the loudness, the repair, the clarity. You have EQ, which is your equalizer. This gets even more deep in, intercom, old radio, that public radio sound. You can enhance speech, reverb, clip volume. So I will use this if I'm starting to like work in some sound design. I'm using this Essential Sound panel to help. A lot of times on music videos, we don't have the budget or the time for a true sound design pass.
Right.
I'm trying to maybe I've got a stock library sound effect of a police siren going by. And so can I make it sound a little bit more in the world?
Integrated into the world of the video that you're in. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, and that's something, it's funny, thinking about it. I mean, I would imagine on a music video shoot, you're doing the sound. I mean, the track is done. You don't have to remix the tracks. You're not mixing music. Yeah. Maybe there's talking perhaps in the video for a moment. Okay,
yeah,
I mean, but that's basically all on you. I mean, I maybe in some cases you farm it out to someone for audio, but they're not having to remaster. This track is already screaming loud. If anything, you're minimizing the output. But that's a really good point. I hadn't actually thought about that. That right, you're kind of responsible if there are going to be some elements of sound design. Kind of falls on you.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, even in the television, movies, and commercial world, the editor these days, we're temping stuff out. We're trying things. Like oftentimes, a TV show like Atlanta will cut for 6 months. And so that's 6 months of us working on an edit with the director and the producers and providing things to the like FX or HBO, whoever the distributor is. By the time it gets to the sound mix, we've done a lot of exploration just due to the nature of the time. If we only get a sound mix for 3 days, but we've been in an edit for a month, we're going into that sound mix with stuff that people have already signed off on and they're liking. And that is just like a great roadmap for the sound mixer to do their pass and to build on that and get better. In music videos, because it's such a quick turnaround, because budgets are tight, we're just doing that stuff on our own. And I'm the first to admit that I am not the best at it. There are editors in the music video space who just build out these crazy lush environments and really enhance their edits with sound design. I'm always just like blown away. I think it's really cool.
Right. Super cool. So a question about going back to the stitch in This Is America. Someone was saying here that really the best approach for that is to use Nuke, and was basically asking if you did it in Nuke or did you do it in After Effects, or do you remember in what app that was achieved?
Our VFX guy on that was the same guy from Atlanta, a guy named Eric Benmuller, and he did that in After Effects. He's an
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And what was great about that is we were able to, I mean, we did this on Atlanta quite a bit where I was an assistant editor. You were able to make After Effects projects
right
on our end that point to the media.
Right.
And then we're able to give that to the artist, and they already have the media and the project, and we're not having to do any sort of intermediary.
Right. There's no intermediary. There's no anything.
It's just here's your footage. Here's the project. Just straight out of. I mean, we can literally, you just right click, replace After Effects comp, and so we were doing that on a lot of things. We did that on This Is America.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right. We probably have time for about 2 more questions here. So Brett was asking thoughts on nesting versus subsequences. This is actually something we got into the other day with Vashi Visuals as well.
I only really do subsequences if I want to save something. Like say I really love this little idea I had right here. I might make a subsequence of that and say like, verse 2 exploration, boom. But most of the time I'm doing nests. I mean, a lot of, I treat nests as they're like a really strong utility. Anytime I want to like, and maybe somebody needs to teach me a better way to do this, but like, let's say hypothetically across these 2 shots, I wanted to add a zoom, right? I would nest it and then kind of add this zoom.
Right.
So now I can have a zoom that bridges. Not that you're really seeing that. I'm a big nest person.
Yeah.
I've found too that a lot of times, and again, maybe this is not the best practice, but it's worked for me. I will often make a nests bin. And so if I make a nest, I throw it here, maybe I'll give it a name, and then, that goes in 06.
Maybe give it I love that. That's very real.
Real talk.
Nest one or the actual name of what it is, either one,
I'll do some of this, I've never really run into an issue where I'm not able to like step into the nest or, find it. I use Nest a lot of time too. Like I'll cut stuff in, I'll cut stuff out, I'll extend stuff in it. I know like, oh, maybe I need this to go longer. I just treat them as another way to just kind of have a space to play and step into stuff.
Right. Nice. All right. And last question. Now, this is maybe a slight curveball because I don't know if you've experienced it or played with it, but so, we have this feature that we released actually back in, I want to say February or March, called Productions, right? Which is it's a new way to kind of organize, and there's a collaboration angle too. And was wondering if you've used Productions in any of the remote stuff that you've been doing yet.
I have not yet. That is one that I need to do. I'm I hate to say it. I'm at that point where it's not that I'm adverse to new things. I've been busy and I haven't had a chance to check it out.
Right. And also someone was reminding me too when I said like, oh yeah, it came out in February, but it's only July. Wait a minute, it's almost October. Like time because this year, I think anyone can attest to the fact that it just.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to try it out. I think as television production starts to ramp back up, I'm excited to have a project where we really dig into that. I think it's going to be super helpful to those workflows.
Awesome. Well, on that note, my friend, I'm going to leave us with a comment from DPK who says, I think this is the best live I've attended. You are the best, guys. Keep doing this. Love and respect from Kerala, India. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And Ernie, thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome.
I wanted to share just kind of one last thing. I just made this just before we hopped on. I made a new email address just for this, but
sweet.
I want, like, without getting too in depth on anything, I just want to start a resource and some communication going about music video editing. I don't know exactly what this is going to look like yet, or how this is going to work. But I just realized there's a lot of underrepresented people in music video editing in the spheres that I'm in. And I just want to be able to kind of empower and help and I don't know. So I started an email address today that's just edited by Ernie. And what I want to do is anybody on the stream, feel free to email into that with kind of who you are and where you're from. And I'm going to start putting together kind of a resource to try to elevate some of the voices that aren't getting opportunities, who maybe aren't being heard, just so that we can have more voices in post-production, in music video. I have friends that are always looking for assistant editors. I'm looking for help. I want to start finding places to just like, yeah, help and share and be a community for something that in my path, in my short time in it, has felt very kind of ambiguous and nebulous and just not very clear on how you get your foot in the door and how you break in and how you can do those things. And there's great resources there. Obviously there's resources, but I want to kind of put my weight behind some of that as well. So
let me ask you, so is this a Gmail address? Because I'll put it in all the chats so everybody. Okay. So edited by Ernie at Gmail? Edited by Ernie at gmail.com.
If you send your stuff, I'm going to send out kind of an email blast in the next couple weeks to whoever sends in and just start the conversation on how we can kind of get some new voices and some voices that maybe haven't been heard into this space. Because it's easy to I think it's easy to put your head down in the sand and to realize and to be like, oh, I don't have much to contribute, or what could I actually do? And it's like, no, we actually have ways to do that. We have platforms, and if we don't do those things, then they're not going to change. And yeah, I don't know. I want to contribute, so that's where I'm at, and I hope people email in.
Dude, I love this, and I have no doubt they were actually they were asking at Gmail. So yes, all right, it's gone into all the chats. So edited by Ernie at gmail.com. Be sure to do that. Again, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in today and yesterday. You'll be able to catch all the replays, of course, on Adobe Video, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, and my YouTube channel, Jason Levine Video. So until next time, I won't have a masterclass tomorrow, taking a bit of streaming day off, but be back on the masterclass next Friday, 10:30 Pacific time. And so until then, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody, and thanks again, Ernie.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day.
All right.